guys, we are here today in the 12th episode of our BJJ Fanatics podcast, and today we have here as a guest Melanson, one of the best set instructors on our store, Michael Zenga. So guys, huge honor to have Neil here with us. Neil is like a coach legend in the MMA and grappling sport, and we shot a ton of instructional videos with him, and it's amazing to see like how much he knows about grappling. And I mean like all aspects of grappling, not only like the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but like wrestling, catch wrestling, Jiu Jitsu, and he mixes up everything. And he teaches the MMA guys, and he has worked with a bunch of them, like a bunch of UFC champions and this and that. So it's such an honor to have you here, Neil.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Neil, can you just mention some names that you have worked with on MMA?
Most notable, I mean, I've kind of worked with a ton of guys over the years, being at 3 major camps. I guess some of the most notable would be, of course, Randy Couture, Vito Belfort, and all the guys that were there. But I trained Dominic Cruz for a couple of camps when I was out at Alliance. Of course, Phil Davis, all those guys. And then when I was at the Black Zillions, Anthony Johnson and pretty much all the guys at the Black Zillions. I mean, I was a coach there, so I worked with everybody. I know it's kind of hard to say a certain name because being at Extreme Couture, back in the day, we had a ton of people, ton of fighters. Akiyama was there for a few camps, like you name it, everybody was there. So I got to work with a lot of big names out there.
Good.
And then when Alliance was happening, I got to work with Gustafson a little bit. I got to work with Jeremy Stevens, this lineup of fighters there. And then, of course, when I went to Black Zillions coaching, we had everybody. We had, Gilbert Burns there. We have, you just name it. It was a stacked card of talent. And I just got to coach and work with all of them, which was a great experience. And every camp has its own challenges. And every time you kind of get better and better at teaching the same material because you got to start from scratch most of the time. Usually camps have the same technical problems, and there's a weird balance. And when I come onto the scene, I like people to have transitions set, so they always know where they need to be on scrambles. Good. So it's like a process. It's a process. Obviously, people follow me. Pat Cummings and I have become good friends. I work with him as well. And at this point in my career, I don't really care about who I train. I care about, training people that I enjoy being around.
Okay.
Before, I was like, you got to make money. You got to work with sometimes bigger names. And when you work with those bigger names, maybe you don't like working with them,
Okay. Yeah, I have heard a lot about that.
Like Michael Chandler, I was with him his entire career. His whole career, we've been together. So that's a big name in Bellator. But there's guys that you haven't heard of or barely know, like maybe Taiwan Claxton. I've been with him most of his career. I love that kid. I'll work with that kid if he was broke or anything, just because I enjoy being around him. So it doesn't matter so much now on the level of talent. I just enjoy working with guys that are hungry to learn and appreciate it. So whether they're even if they're 0-3, I don't care. Okay. I just don't care anymore. I like coming to work and working with people that want to work.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I tell a story of how I sort of, quote unquote, discovered you for our company? Mm-hmm. So while you're pretty well known in the MMA world, you certainly weren't as well known in the BJJ world. And I said to Bernardo, I have this idea. I want to do a video with this guy, Neil Melanson. And Bernardo said, who the hell is that? And I think that most Jiu Jitsu guys would have said that. And the reason I wanted to do a video with Neil is because it was probably 2006, 2007. I was out in Las Vegas just as a tourist, but a Jiu Jitsu enthusiast. I was probably a purple belt at that point. And I'm out there and I was watching you. I don't want to say names because it's training. Absolutely destroying a very good MMA fighter who was at that point fighting for belts. Okay? And I'm just watching it. It was just you two in the room. And I was there. I don't even know if he knew I was there. He certainly didn't know who I was. And I'm watching him like, holy shit. Just like it was triangle, like, and then the guy's getting pissed and he would like go, like, all right, and he'd come back and the same thing would happen. And it was absolutely crazy. So I'm like, this is nuts. How the hell have I never heard of this guy? Like, what organization does this guy fight in? Someone said, oh, that's Neil. He doesn't fight. He's just a coach. Well, I think he could probably beat Tim Sylvia, whoever the champ was back then. This is crazy. Why isn't this happening? And so since then, I talked to like some other guys, like a pretty well-known grappler in a camp. And again, like I went and rolled with you that day. It was probably like 4 years ago. You absolutely destroyed me. And I'm not saying I'm the best guy in the world, but I mean, I go to Master Worlds, won a couple fights and that kind of thing. And I mean, it wasn't even close. And I was talking to this guy about him, like, man, Neil is just crazy tough. Does he kill everybody? I was like, yeah. And then I mentioned some like really like some top guys. I'm like, how would Neil do with those guys? And the guy looked at me like I was crazy. He goes, against Neil? Neil would fucking kill him. And I'm like, this is just, it's just such a paradox because, you know, you haven't really competed beyond where you first started, but you're just at such this high level. How did you get there?
Well, I mean, I just, like most people, I was just passionate about sport.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to focus on no-gi grappling.
Okay.
And a lot of people, you know, back then, it's like, you have to do the gi if you want to get good. And as soon as you tell me I have to do something, I'm already not interested.
Okay.
But at the same time, it wasn't something I didn't really care for the gi. Nothing that I don't against it. Like, I study it just to kind of get new ideas and to see movement. But at the same token, it wasn't something I ever was interested in. So I think that's why my style is a little weird, because all I've done is no gi.
Yeah, you don't even own a gi, correct?
I've never owned a gi.
All right.
And I was a highest stand grappler, which is weird.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the first day you started about grappling up until now. Like, what was your progression?
Well, I started off in a street fighting club out in Cincinnati. I was in Ground Marshall at the time, and I just kind of wanted.
And what year is this roughly?
2002.
Okay.
And there wasn't really anyone there, but the guy that owned the place, he was a big man, and he liked to fight. So we would just work on stuff. He had an instructor come in and show us stuff, but yeah, it wasn't like real that good. Like, it was able to kind of overcome it pretty fast. And I would compete and challenge myself. But back then, all I knew was leg lock. So I had to always do advanced brackets because all I knew was leg lock. And then I would go to LA a lot because I was flying all the time.
Because you were an Air Marshal after 9/11.
Yeah. And then I kept reading about, you know, all these different jiu-jitsu guys and stuff. But there was Gene LaBelle and Go-Court. Everyone's like, no, those guys are brutes. They're killers. Like, you don't want to go there. They'll they'll mess you up. So of course, I was like, I'm going there. And then I remember working with Go and Gene, and I was like, wow.
So for people who don't know, Gene LaBelle is just this legend. He was a national judo champion, but also a professional wrestler. He did sort of a mixed martial arts bout before, like way before UFC. And he beat like a popular boxer, Miles Sanders. Yeah. And then Go-Court is like a Sambo guy.
Go-Court was a Sambo judo guy, and then when he went with Gene, because he went to Gene really young. Gene was a legit catch wrestler. Okay. He was trained by Lou Thez, and Lou Thez was a very famous catch wrestler.
We're getting into a whole like rabbit hole where you can start to go down and look up like the guys like Lou Thez and like real, because professional wrestling used to be a lot more real than it is now.
Well, catch wrestling, or the term catch wrestling, wrestling used to be catch wrestling. Yeah. And what they did is they wanted to make a dumbed down version for kids, and they made folk style wrestling. Yep. And then years later, because of guys like Ed Lewis that were so amazing, they started throwing fights.
Like the Crippler Lewis.
Yeah. Ed the Strangler. So what happened is down the road, they basically, pro wrestling became fake as hell, and now it's a dramatic act. Yeah. And the only thing left is folk wrestling and freestyle Greco. So.
But guys like Lou Thez used to throw fights or something because.
Lou Thez was, he was trained by a few guys. I know that Ed Lewis did train him when Ed was older. Luthez is supposed to be one of the more talented guys, and as far as technicians. But a lot of those matches were still orchestrated, but they were done, in Japan where they boo if it looks bad. It's like the Rowdy Snake Pit. It's like, even though the matches might have been predetermined, they still did the proper technique.
Yeah, for sure.
And they were brutal. But back in the day, you gotta remember, back in the day, boxing was so fixed, no one watched it. Pro wrestling was the only thing real and that you could bet on, and it was best out of 3. It's just that loser was so good that nobody would show up anymore because he beat everyone. And then once he started throwing matches, he was cleaning out. So it kind of stemmed from there, I think.
Cool. So anyway, you're training with Jean LaBelle and Gokor.
Yeah.
And so how long? So this is from about 2002, you're saying?
I think I moved out there in 3 or 4. 2003 or 4.
Yeah, because so think about this now. Like, I saw you probably 2006, 2007, killing this UFC fighter. How the hell did you get from not knowing what you're doing in 2003 all the way? One thing, like, so what we talk about, like, when you're not around, because, everyone talks bad about it, I say, like, if you listen to Neil's story, it's like, it makes absolutely no sense. It's like a guy who's, like, not good talking about, like, making up his stories. And it doesn't make any kind of sense until you see him on the mat and you're like, what the fuck? This makes absolutely no sense. Because then the other thing people say is, well, he's just big. No, that's not it. He's incredibly technical, incredibly so. Like to the point where, like, I mean, way beyond where almost everyone else is. Mm-hmm. So how did this happen from 2003 to like 2006?
Well, I was really fortunate at Higher Stand. They're brutally honest. And, I was like there was white people there, but it's an Armenian gym. And they were real hard. They grapple hard. They used to be really hard. I definitely got my legs jacked up there.
Really?
And
so this is from 2003 to when?
I don't know when I left.
But plus you're an air marshal, so you're taking like extended leaves, right?
Well, I would just go. I transferred from Cincinnati to LA just to train there.
Okay, yeah.
So when I trained there, I was training there all the time. And then, of course, me and Carl Parisian, we became good friends. And Carl,
so he was a UFC star at this point.
Yeah, he was. Caro was kind of like, Gokor would show me like the million different ways to do moves. Like Gokor is a sick technician, and he was ridiculously strong. But he was an amazing technician, and when it comes to leg locks, I don't care what anyone says, he is the best in the world. And if you can contest that now, but go train with him because he is out of this world. So Gokor showed me a ton of techniques on leg locks, so I had a good understanding of things because of Gokor. But Carl brought that practicality out in me because Carl, he would be like, dude, like, everything was. Because he was fighting was like, I'm just gonna crack you. Like, oh, if you miss, I'm gonna crack you, or whatever the case was. So Carl was really big on that. And the other thing, Carl was, even though he was my friend, like when he was showing stuff, he was my coach, so to speak. The one thing he did a good job of is like, sometimes people award themselves with compliments too soon. So if you say, I'm getting good at this, think about what good is. And Carl, what he always did is make me compare myself to the best. So if you said, oh, I'm good at this, and it's like, compared to who? Jacare is good at this. Are you Jacare? It was like that kind of coaching.
So real tough.
It's like, you're decent at this.
Okay.
So it was that kind of environment, which being an ex-military guy, I just embraced pretty easily. But it pushed me a lot, and I was very good at patterns. I'm very good at catching patterns, and I don't know why. It's just have always been that way, I guess. And I would study insane amount of jiu-jitsu. So I would do, if I could get instructional DVDs, I would get them. And then I would study them. And I just remember if I paid $100 for this DVD and I got 2 techniques out of it, well, I could pay, that's 2 techniques. Now I can form into maybe 10 sets of scrambles, and just explode it. So if I get that, I get that. So I would study and I would grab anything. I remember highest end, we didn't do a ton of guard passing. So even at the tournaments I would compete in, even if I, when I win the thing, I would go to the guy that I would beat and be like, can you show me a guard pass? Because we didn't pass. Except legs, at least when I was there, we did a lot of leg locks. So passing wasn't something that we did a ton of. Even Caro was a hell of a guard passer.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but it's great to hear that because, man, you're in this business, right? We sell instructional videos on BJJfanatics.com. So to see that you got where you got, studying them makes us feel good. You're doing the right thing.
I study everybody.
Okay.
And
you don't just watch jiu-jitsu, you watch a lot of college wrestling too.
College wrestling is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
So you adapt a lot of the techniques to ground.
Yeah, because to me, I feel like a lot of people are going in that direction. I feel like things are changing and I just try to be ahead of it. Yeah. I recognize wrestling as grappling, and that's a lot of things jiu-jitsu guys don't. They just think it's takedowns.
Yeah,
it's not. No. And it's kind of like, there's all different levels. I remember hearing jiu-jitsu guys like talk bad about judo and how they would kill these judo guys. And I'm like, yeah, but who were they? Exactly. You're not talking world level. You're not talking Olympic level. If you were going with those guys, you would have a whole nother opinion. Sure. And I think that put it in perspective.
If you've ever seen judo and wrestling at the world level,
it's crazy.
It's at a level that, like jiu-jitsu is at an incredibly high level too, but it's one country that dominates. Brazil has won, probably 98, 99% of the medals since the turn of the century. With judo and jiu-jitsu, with wrestling and judo, it's all different countries that are winning. These are scholarship level sports. Yeah. And I think judo's the second most practiced. So again, the jiu-jitsu people are incredible athletes, but don't just learn from them.
Yeah.
There's so much to be learned from wrestlers. There's so much to be learned
from, tackle the stuff that you don't like to do. You might, because you'll start to like it.
Exactly.
So to speak. Like, to me, wrestling was exhausting. Yeah. And I would get my butt kicked. I don't have a wrestling base. But I kept doing it. And now I prefer to wrestle because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And in my case, for example, when I started doing wrestling in 2014, it was a game changer for me. Yeah. And then in 2015 was the best year of my career.
2015, you're the champion.
Yeah, I think definitely those cross.
Yeah, for sure.
Helps a lot. And even if you...
And you even studied some judo too. Even though you didn't go that far with it, you study, you know what it is.
And even if you take like the best jiu-jitsu grapplers, for example.
Yeah.
You just mentioned like Jacaré. Man, he had a great judo.
Great
You see like Boucher, he's a great wrestler. He takes everybody down double. Yeah. So I think those cross...
And like some of the best trainers we deal with, John, for instance, studies a ton of wrestling.
Yeah.
Gordon practices a ton of wrestling. The top guys now, we saw Joe Gabriel the other night, he's pretty good judo.
Pretty good judo, yeah.
What helped my hand fighting better than anything in this game was not jiu-jitsu or anything, it was Greco.
Really?
Greco made my hand fighting next level because they're the masters of hand fighting.
Man.
Hand pummeling.
We shot a video for Adam Wheeler.
Wheeler's a stud.
Yeah, he got 30 in the knees for Greg, right? When I started rolling, he grabbed my wrist. I was like, okay, this arm doesn't move anymore.
I think 4 or 5 years into training jiu-jitsu, he's a Masters Black Belt World Champion. So like, there's crossover. We talk about it. Cameron, one of the guys I train with the most, Travis Stevens, he'll say like,
he's a stud.
He's a stud, and he got his black belt in 1.5 years from John, and it's like saying, well, it's like one of the Williams sisters like playing tennis. Like if she took up racquetball, someone's saying, oh my God, this girl has a lot of talent. Well, she's done something very similar for a long time. And Travis,
there's crossover for sure.
For sure.
The base is insane.
And Travis was in a very short period, too, right? How long did it take?
A year and a half.
To get a black belt?
Yeah, not from John.
Okay.
It's like John's like 9th black belt or something, and with all the students he's ever taught. But most judo guys aren't as good as Travis is on the ground. But he's also
well, there's ground-based guys too. There's all different styles.
So you studied cross-discipline because just think about this for a second, going from not really knowing what you're doing in 2003 to killing like title contender level UFC guys in the gym. Like I'm talking 10, 12 taps in a roll. It was nuts.
Well, like for example, because when I went to highest stand, they looked at my body and said, "You're going to do this."
Yeah.
And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Because I like top game, I like leg locks,
and
because my wrestling judo wasn't good, They're like, you're going to be on your back, because they knew that I wanted to compete at the high level. Yeah. And because of my legs were long, they're like, you're going to be a guard triangle player. And I was like, what? So I eventually gave in. I did what they asked me to. And I would study everything I could on triangles. But what I really started understanding is, like, the coaches would tell you, do your shrimp drills, do your coordination drills, but guys don't really do that. I bought a little mat, and I would do 30 minutes to an hour twice a day of hip movement and leg coordination drills. Like, I had even a 30-pound medicine ball that I would play catch with. I would throw it to my feet, catch it with my feet, and throw it back, catch it. And it would just train my lower abs. I would do things where I would have one med ball picked here, and I would do these balancing on one foot. And I had to develop the coordination because I was huge. I was bigger than I am now. So once I got that coordination down and how to move my body on the mat and how to get my legs, it was funny because Cara one time told me, your legs should be like two snakes. They move independently, they think independently, and they both bite. It was a great analogy.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
years later, I was training Vitor, and Vitor was kind of impressed with me, and he said, your legs are like two snakes. And I texted Tara, I was like, dude, I guess I made it. So, but I got far in one choke. So instead of trying to know a million submissions, I found a million ways into making you play my game. And then because I have to admit, because of my tactical background with the federal government and shooting and all the other stuff I did doing counterterrorism, I learned how to ball a neck. How do you force the threat to go down an avenue that they don't want to?
Okay. Well,
you learn how to bottleneck people, right? And then I started realizing I took a lot of the tactics I took from there. I brought it over to grappling. Yeah. So when I look at it, I start looking at things in a foundational thing, base. Like, all right, well, he's gonna need to get his bottom leg up if he wants to get up. If I can stop that bottom leg now, he can't get up, so now I can have more time. Yeah. If I go here, his only option is to turn away. If he turns away with his background, he's gonna Granby or he's gonna scramble. If he does this, I'm doing that. So I've gotten you all set, even though I don't know how it's really gonna play out. So this is
playing out in your head just as soon as you're showing you have scenarios going on.
Yeah, you train it and then it becomes automatic. You don't think about it. But those little things teach you to beat a scramble, and it kind of gets you to buy time. To me, stalling is a skill. And I'm not outside stalling. I'm talking about like touch and run. I'm talking about in the pocket stalling. Because what I'm doing is I'm stalling you. It could only be for a couple seconds, but I'm doing something on a certain way to feed you into a place that I'm ready and you're not. And that's why I always say good tactics can beat good technique any day. You could be amazing at everything, but if my tactics are, I can create a certain avoidance that your technique doesn't work and mine does.
For sure.
So I brought that aspect to it, and it really is great for them to make.
Shortcut. But just cutting through here, just like taking a couple notes. So most people, they go to the gym, and they come back, and they go to class, they do everything the instructor says, they come back like, just not improving the way I want to improve. So let's just think, you're going home from class, and you're doing 30 minutes twice a day of leg dexterity. And when you say you're watching an insane amount of film, I know you well enough to think it's actually an insane amount of film. Right?
Yeah, I watch a lot of film.
How much in a day do you think you were watching?
When I was in the beginning, I would, I don't know, I was a big reader when I was in the government. I used to read books, I don't know how many years of books a week. So I believed in a lot of different things. So before bed, I would fall asleep to certain videos over and over and over. I would do everything I could. I believe in self-brainwashing. So I was trying to self-brainwash myself to get the advantage.
So we're probably talking it's like hours and hours a day.
Yeah, no, I was committed. The grappling was the first thing I've ever done in my life that made me feel satisfied.
Okay, good.
And I mean, everything else I ever did, like whether I was powerlifting or shooting guns, whatever I was doing, at the end of the day, I still felt edgy. And then when I started grappling, it was like I felt peace. And for some reason, so I don't think I'll ever stop, even if I'm missing legs, I'll still be rolling. I just love to roll.
So from 2003 to 2006, 2007, you're going to class every day, probably multiple times, correct? Yeah. You're doing drills on your own, dexterity drills, and you're watching hours of film.
Yeah, so the other thing
now it's starting to make more sense.
So the other thing I had going for me is I had some friends that were awesome training partners. One of them, Lance Frymuth, I'll give him a shout because he helped me so much. He would basically, I'd be like, hey, Lance, I want to work this on you. Yeah. This is what I think the counter's going to be. Yeah. Try this. And then I would, if the technique worked, I'd be like, all right, I don't feel good like over here. Try to beat it over here. All right, and then through that deduction, I will figure out what's the spectrum of the technique. So every technique has limitations. So now I know that for me, this technique is going to work only if you're bent at an angle. And if you're at a posture position, the technique's garbage. Yeah. So that means don't try to break them, just adjust. Right. So or whatever the case is. And because I had partners like that, I was able to dissect things and take it further.
So a lot of specific.
So I could spend 3 hours working on one thing with one training partner because he was awesome at letting me drill. Because I would train him and coach him, and I just wouldn't charge him. That was his way of paying me back.
So some really smart training where you're going over some specific positions and learn them inside out.
Yeah, like, hey, I want to be in a crack single. I want you to do, now let's just try to get up and get on top. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go crack single now. I want you to try to attack me from the bottom. Yeah. Now I start finding the limitations, and if I be honest, I feel vulnerable over here, try to exploit that. And then I was almost like going to school, you just figuring things out like an equation. Yeah.
It's one thing I know when I train with Bernardo. So Bernardo knows if you get into his half guard or he gets you into his over-under, it's just bad news. And the thing is, he's been there more than you have. Wouldn't you say that's probably true, Bernardo?
Yeah, it's kind of what you were saying. Yeah. Like, instead of learning 1 million techniques, I try to learn 1 million different ways to bring my opponent to my game. So
and then once you get there, you're going to finish it.
Yeah, because I spent a lot of time there. So.
Because I know, like, training with Neil, like what he was saying, one of the scenarios, like I know, like I always try to play half guard because you're my hero. I try to play your game. And what Neil say, oh, all I did was put you on a low shoulder. And what that means is, if I'm on this elbow, he's going to take this elbow away, so I'm on my shoulder, so I have no leverage. Next thing you know, I'm getting smashed, and it seems like that's how it always ends up with you.
That's why I hate to do it, but like some people like it, and I get some good press. Messages from fans is that I'm kind of long-winded on my instruction because the concept.
I would call it thorough.
Well, yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
No, I would, because our best-selling guys are. Yeah,
and I think like everybody who's watching the videos, they want to learn all the very little concepts.
Yeah,
you bring this.
I can be totally honest with you. Their technique can be irrelevant. So a lot of times you get instructionals where it's just technique, but there's no problem solving taught.
Exactly.
And my thing is like, all right, I'm not worried about the technique right now. Yeah. This is my plan. I beat your head position with my head. Yeah. He can't attack my leg. There's no half guard. Therefore, I'm safe over here. Now, that's not a technique. It's a concept. Now, from here, I'll show you the technique. Oh, this fails. What do I do? Yeah. I reset to my protection. So, like, now you get the big spectrum. So when guys approach the game, they know where they're supposed to be. If they go sometimes just for the technique, they go right into the bottom games game. Yeah.
Guys, for who is listening or watching, we have done a lot of instructional videos with you. At this point, how many?
I don't even know.
I know it's a lot. Yeah.
We can try to count them.
It's like close guard, catch wrestling, leg locks.
I think we have 6
advanced guard,
and then we have 3 more coming out.
Yeah, so make sure to check this out on bjjfanatics.com. Just type Neil Melanson in the search bar and you're going to see all his videos, or just click on his picture and you're going to see all his instructions there. And it's also like everybody who gets it, it's always like amazing reviews. Yeah. And exactly what he's saying, like many people do like teach instructions in kind of like a short way. He teaches in a long way, showing every single concept about each technique. So it's really, really good. And
well, for me, because when I would see instructionals, I do it based on what I want to see. I would see the technique, but I wouldn't see the problem-solving skills out of it. So it's like now I have no idea of when, where, because there's like when you do an interview, if something happens, they always ask you who, where, why, and how. Yeah. Well, that's all relevant to when you're doing grappling. You get a badass pass or you're doing something awesome. well, that's fantastic, but you're doing it on a scrub on the gym. You don't know the limits of it yet. It might be dope, but you gotta, if you're getting at higher level guys, now you're starting to see, hey, this is more valuable than I thought. But you need those guys, lower guys, to get the practice under duress. So everybody has a value.
If you only train with the very, very, very tough guys,
they can.
You're gonna get tough, but you're not gonna develop like.
Yeah, you're not gonna get the confidence to see through the technique.
Yeah, and when you start training with like lower guys, then you can actually like develop your technique and your
three partners: the guy you can smash, the guy that's competitive, and the guy that beats you. You get all three of those, you got everything you need.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, man, it's amazing, like his quotes, right? I'm just picking like 2 or 3 here. Like this 3 pointers is a great one.
Awesome.
This snake one was amazing.
Yeah.
And there was one more you said here that I was like, man, this is a good one. So it's amazing. No, but anyway, try to go.
Yeah, so you've had some injuries. So there's 3 guys here and there's 29 toes. Do you want to tell us what happened with that? Well, that's crazy.
Oh, beginners forget that they're the most dangerous person on the mat.
Yeah.
And even though I was coaching fighters, I loved training, because sometimes with training fighters, it's what you don't teach them.
Yeah.
Sometimes that helps them. So a lot of times when I work with fighters, I don't do the bottom game. I focus, I don't do a lot of stuff like that, unless the guy already has a talent.
Because in MMA, you're not looking to pull guard.
Right, like when I work with Wilson Hayes, he's already a good grappler.
Yeah.
We could do more with him. That was fun.
Yeah.
Because he's already a great grappler.
Like Dorino, I'm guessing.
Dorino, another one. Yeah, you got a great grappler, you have room.
Yeah, exactly.
But for most guys, it's a risk because there's rules. Yeah. It's a whole nother story. But I went down, and I was rolling with some regular students, and this kid, I was just playing around with him, and he freaked out, and he grabbed my toe that was here, and he snapped it like that over my toe like that. And at the time, I was like, "What are you doing, man?" Because he was like, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "No, it's not preferable in a training room. What are you doing, man?" And I felt kind of bad for him too, because he could tell he was scared, But it's like I had broken it before, so I was like, "All right, I'll just break it back. It's just not a broken toe." So I snapped it back, but the best I could get it was still on my nail. And I was running camps for fighters. This is when I was in Vegas. So I taped it up the best I could, and I just kept training. But when camps died down, I tried to get it fixed. But apparently it had shattered through the joint, and they were going to have to put pins in it, restructure the toe. And they said no contact for 9 months to a year. And I was like, I had people counting on me. I'm not going to sit off the mat.
So you pulled the running loss.
So I had it cut off, and I was on the mat 2 weeks. I just grappled like this for a while to kind of protect it, and then I was back running camps.
And you've had like, you even deal with a lot of like sickness conditions and that kind of thing.
Well, that's the thing. I lost my career with the government because I developed it. This is also why my competing just kind of dropped off. I developed a health condition I didn't know I had called Behçet's disease. It's kind of like lupus.
Yeah.
So basically, when I was an air marshal, I was jet lagged every day of my life.
Yeah.
It's pretty much. So it triggered an autoimmune where my immune system now is dysfunctional. So it's too strong and it attacks part of my body. And what it did is I went blind in both eyes. They saved my right eye. My left eye is still blind. And then I eventually went deaf in my right ear. So I only have my left ear. So I'm blind and deaf. And they had to jack me up on this drug called Remicade, which is very intense. It's used for rheumatoid arthritis because you have other symptoms of disease. It's awful. And that the medicine was making me very sick. And to be honest with you, I was living by myself in LA. And when you're blind and you're on your own, like the people that are blind living on their own, they're so brave. I was terrified. That was the most scared I've ever been in my life. You can't check what time it is. you know, and with computers and stuff, like someone messages you, you can't see anything. You're lost. If it wasn't for friends bringing me food, I don't know what I would have done.
Oh my gosh.
And they were injecting my eyeballs. They were trying everything, but it's really the Remicade.
It came back, what, after 2 months?
No, the Remicade saved it after a month. So my right eye came back. It's damaged, but it's back.
So you don't see it all really out of your left eye?
No. So I lost my career because you got, you know, even though I could still shoot, it was probably for the best. So I did get a pension out of it. But to be honest with you, it was probably it was so humbling. I really had a tough time with it emotionally. I think I just kind of disappeared. I didn't have any confidence in anything anymore. And I just kind of really focused everything into grappling. Because at that point I was grappling for my mental sanity.
Yeah.
It was like I'm fighting grappling, but I'm really fighting my disease. And the doctors were trying to get me to quit because more taxing on your nervous system can trigger the disease, you know, the illness to act up. So, but I was like, if I stop this, I'm going to shoot myself.
Yeah.
So it was kind of my cling on. It was like my faith, you know, and that's what I held on to. But I kind of stepped away and said, you know what, if you're going to do this now, you got to be a coach. So I just kind of stepped out of competing. Said, all yours, just a coach now. And I just focused on helping others. Because I'm like, well, my dreams are tethered. I'll focus on helping other people. And through the years, I've struggled with it. I've had a lot of problems with it. And I would say now, even at my age now, I'm 41, I feel like I have better control about it. And I've been talking about trying to compete this summer. So I just want to get out. I'm feeling pretty good.
You're thinking about competing this summer?
Yeah, I want to.
In what, like a one-type fight, super fight or something?
Yeah, like a fight to win type thing.
Cool.
I've been talking to one of my sponsors, CBD, and they're doing an event this summer. And they're talking about
CBD?
Yeah, it's a CBD. They actually putting a Ground Marshall product out called Godfather. It'll be out soon. I was hoping to bring it, but it's not out yet. Cool. They just got great products. They started contacting me because the guy was a fan, and they know I have a lot of arthritis from the disease and wear and tear, and it helps. So anyhow, but I took some time off from coaching and got my body healthy, and I'm feeling good, and I'm doing really well, and I'm coaching again, and I'm really happy. So I'm really I would love to do it. I would love to get out there and get filthy one more time. So we'll see. I got a lot going on. I'm doing my SWAT thing, and I'm also the teacher.
So you're a SWAT team instructor. You're a SWAT team member at the MGM.
Yeah, the MGM properties. Yeah.
So 2 things I would take from what you just said. I mean, one, it's funny, just a life lesson that, like, be nice to everybody because everybody's struggling with something. I mean, here you are, this huge, strong guy, and like they're dealing with some emotional stuff from having a sickness. And 2, some poor motherfucker at Fight to Win is going to say, oh yeah, well, this guy's never competed before. How bad could this be? And he's not even going to know what he doesn't know. When he gets into that, that's going to be real bad.
Well, like I said, I want to do it, but I got to make sure that it's going to work. If I have a lot of fight camps going on, it's going to be hard. I still have a job to do.
I would say, I mean, if they're going to pay you, it's got to be somebody really good, because if you go with some just normal person, then I mean, that's going to be.
As long as I'd like to get someone I don't want to go against anything small. That's my big thing.
Okay.
I feel like that's a lose-lose for me.
Yeah.
I'd rather just go against someone big that can take my weight and I can have some fun.
Yeah, man, I'd love to see how it goes. I mean, there's some really big, tough guys out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, even like against Adam or Carlos or something like that, that would be an amazing match to watch. I mean,
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But I'm excited for the future. I joined up with Syndicate now, MMA in Vegas, and I'm really excited. My Filthy Few fighters are going to be Justin out there.
Cool.
And I'm excited working with those.
Awesome.
So I'm back coaching again. Feels good.
Oh, that's great. And then you're actually from Massachusetts, correct?
Yeah, I'm from this place.
Oh, where we are, yeah. And then 41 years old, Massachusetts. There's 41-year-old Massachusetts residents winning Super Bowls these days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's still probably a lot left in the tank.
Yeah, no, as long as I rehabbed a lot of my injuries, which is something I didn't think I could do.
Yeah.
I still, I'm pretty jacked up. I do need like a hip replacement and shoulder and all that stuff, but I do pretty well. I really rehabbing things on my own. I don't like trust anyone else, so I do it myself.
Cool.
And it's going good.
You are oddly very, very knowledgeable about like physiology and that kind of stuff. To the point, I say oddly because unlike any non-doctor I've ever met, like as far as knowing about stuff and injuries and that kind of thing.
Well, I've had a lot of weird things happen to me, so I'm always hurt with something, or I've been around fighters. But I used to just read a lot. I don't read as much anymore because I'm very busy.
Yeah.
But I just find things fascinating. I'm just an open-minded guy about stuff.
Cool.
Like if someone does a certain sport or something else I'd never heard of, I just take an interest. Like I'm a big MotoGP fan.
Really?
I want to see that coming. And I freaking love that sport.
When the off-roading?
It's the super bike racing.
Oh,
it's the European sport.
When they take their knee like this far off the ground and they're doing like 200 miles around the corner.
Yeah, they're crazy.
That thing hits,
they're absolutely crazy. And I used to ride back in the day. Once I went blind, I got rid of the bike. But I think it's pretty awesome. And it's like not something I don't do, but I just like, I have a lot of weird interests.
You can go down like
YouTube.
I have
a war history interest. And
we've talked about that,
Yeah.
You can go down a YouTube rabbit hole of guys on motorcycles just taunting the cops and just ripping by them at 200 miles an hour, and like the cops have no shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
It's dangerous. I don't recommend that.
No.
Not at all.
But it's fun viewing at like 1 a.m. if you're tired.
Yeah. Well, I like it as a sport because it's a real tactical thing. And watching these guys, same guys on top.
How fast do they go? It's like 200, right?
They can, it depends where they are. They're hitting corners pretty fast too.
Yeah.
But the way they ride that bike, the only way to get it to turn is to throw your elbow to the ground.
Yeah.
And they bump each other. It's insane.
At hundreds of miles an hour.
Yeah. And there's a lot of tactics to it too. And there's guys there. There's young kids like Mark Marquez. It's just unreal.
Really?
It's just unreal.
Cool.
I don't think people realize how crazy that sport is.
Yeah, no, it's nuts.
It's fun.
And they're in great shape too, right?
Yeah, they have to stay in shape.
They're like real good.
Moving that bike around for.
It's not just sitting there like, just sitting on a chair. I mean, it's active.
Yeah, they're throwing that bike around, and they've got to be lighter weight guys too.
For sure.
So it's just like I have a lot of different interests.
Cool.
A lot of interests.
Awesome, man. Any questions that you have, Bernardo?
No, I think that was great.
Yeah. So I think. Neil has a very cerebral approach to grappling. People have really enjoyed his products. It's cross-training. It's not just a straight jiu-jitsu. I think it shows that everybody has something to teach us, especially people have just been so happy with what you've done. We really thank you for spending so much time with us.
Oh, I love it. This is what I like to do.
Cool, man.
I like teaching.
Awesome. So I think that's about it, guys.
Yeah, guys, make sure, one thing I would like to ask you guys, the podcast is growing, so make sure to leave a review in the podcast if you can. That's going to help us to grow even more and to keep bringing like this best guys here. Oh,
Thanks, guys.
thank you. It's awesome.